Here we are at Shiloh, and it is the place where the tabernacle of the Lord sat for 300 years. Joshua chapter 18, it says that after the armies of conquest had destroyed the capacity of the Canaanites to defend themselves, and after the land had been distributed, the land that was given to Ephraim when it was settled, they came here, and Joshua came with all of the tribes, and they placed the tabernacle here. And what's fascinating about this place is that in the midst of all the very steep and rugged hills, there is this one area that is a very flat plateau. It's not so much a plateau, it's just a level place in the midst of the hills. And it's almost precisely the size that was demanded of the tabernacle. And it is just beyond the village of Shiloh, which is just behind me here. There are archaeological reasons, there are inscriptional reasons, there are historical reasons to argue that this must be Shiloh. And one of the most fascinating things about this site is that it is surrounded on almost 360 degrees by hills just such as that. So you have this flat place that is guarded on the east by the Jordan Rift and on the west by the Shiloh system of wadis and so on. And it's surrounded by these hills where I think undoubtedly this is where the Israelites, when they came to worship, especially at Passover, would sit on these hills and because it had to be within eyesight of the tabernacle, and it's all within eyesight of the tabernacle. And now they take the meal, and evidently because it was a sacred meal, they would smash they would demolish the vessels they used to eat, and then they would go home. And one of the curious things about this site is that archaeologists have removed truckloads almost of pottery shards from here, and all of these hills, as you go up them, they're just littered with those pottery shards until you crest the hill, and then there are no more. And it just again seems to give rather eloquent testimony to the fact that this is where the ark sat, this is where the feasts were kept year after year, this is where Yahweh placed his name for those 300 years. It was here that Eli, careless Eli, and his wicked sons Hophni and Phinehas were leading the ritual worship and so on. And it was here that Hannah came with her husband Elkanah, and of course she had a rival wife whose name was Peninnah. And it was here that Elkanah, as they kept the Passover, he offered an extra sacrifice, a peace offering. And we know that's what it was because Elkanah gave Hannah a portion of the sacrifice, but her heart was heavy because she didn't have a son, and she didn't have a child. And so one of the functions, one of the uses to which the peace offering could be put was to make a vow. It could be a votive offering, and she understood that. And so godly Hannah went and stood, and you can stand virtually where she stood. And you can imagine so powerfully the heaviness of her heart as she prayed and asked God for a son and made a vow. And that vow was that she would give that son back over to Yahweh and that he would be raised here at Shiloh. And that's exactly what happened. God answered her prayer, and God gave her a son. She named him Shmuel, or heard of God, or promised by God. And so Samuel was brought here as just a lad and grew up under the tutelage of Eli and in the neighborhood here with Hophni and Phinehas. And he goes on to be that great reformer and turns Israel around and so on. So it's right here. It's from this place that Hophni and Phinehas evidently take the Ark of the Covenant out of the Holy of Holies and carry it off to the west to a place called Aphek, and there's a battle and the Ark is captured. And when the runner comes back, and again it fits so perfectly because the runner would have come on the road and then through this little village and then to the place where Eli was sitting. And now Eli hears the melancholy news that his two sons have been killed. 134,000 Israelites have fallen as well, but the ark is taken and Eli pitches over and dies. And again, it fits perfectly with this site. So it's just a thrill to be here. It's one of my favorite stops. We got a beautiful day, and we have a young man who guides for us every year. His name is Israel Ben-Ari, and so we're delighted with the day. So it's a blessed place to visit, and we had a great visit.